สวัสดีค่ะสวัสดีอีกครั้งนะคะท่านแขกท่านผู้มีเกียรติทุกท่านดิฉันนลินาสุตตกุลค่ะรับหน้าที่เป็นพิธีกรสำหรับค่ำคืนนี้นะคะยินดีต้อนรับทุกท่านเข้าสู่การบรรยายจากช่างภาพระดับโลกมิสเตอร์เซบาสเตียลซาลกาโดค่ะงานนี้นะคะจัดขึ้นโดยความร่วมมือระหว่างสมาคมถ่ายภาพแห่งประเทศไทยในพระบรมราชูปถัมภ์ร่วมกับหอศิลปวัฒนธรรมแห่งกรุงเทพมหานครค่ะร่วมกับ Sundaram Tagore Gallery Your Excellencies distinguished guests committee members of the Royal Photographic Society of Thailand friends from the media ladies and gentlemen a very warm welcome to this evening my name is Nalina Suttakul and I'll be your MC for tonight Welcome to the 4th RPST Master Series Artist Talk with Sebastiao Salgado, The World Through His Eyes. This event is jointly organized by the Royal Photographic Society of Thailand and the Bangkok Art and Culture Center and Sundaram Tagore Gallery. At this point, may I invite Mr. Nitikorn Graivishian, President of the Royal Photographic Society of Thailand, to come up on stage to say a few words about this evening.
ขอบคุณครับ Excellencies, Mr. Salgado, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. Without wishing to take up too much of your time, I should like to say a few words on behalf of the Royal Photographic Society of Thailand. First and foremost, it is such a pleasure and privilege to be able to bring to Thailand the iconic work of the world's greatest living photographers, Mr. Sebastiao Salgado. This is the first major exhibition of Mr. Salgado's work in Thailand, and I would like to wholeheartedly thank the Bangkok Art and Culture Center and Sundaram Tagore Gallery for their wonderful collaborations and for making this possible in the first place. I would also like to extend my warm welcome and sincere appreciation to Mr. Salgado for traveling all the way to be with us today for this much anticipated occasion, which I trust will be both inspirational and memorable. Mr. Salgado's work speaks for themselves and require no introduction. I believe we all have been looking forward for this exciting opportunity to hear from Mr. Salgado himself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kun Nitikorn, for your opening speech. And now may I invite Mr. Sundaram Tagore, founder of the Sundaram Tagore Gallery, to say a few words about our main artist speaker tonight.
Swadee Kap. Good evening. My name is Sundaram Tagore, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here. Equally delighted to collaborate with the Royal Photographic Society of Thailand and BACC to bring this remarkable exhibition of Sebastiao Salgado. And Salgado, as you know, is one of the world's greatest living photographer. So we are very, very proud to have him here, and his wife, Leila Wanik Salgado, is also the curator. And as an art historian and a gallerist, I've always admired his work for a long time. And so having the chance and opportunity to work with him for the last 6 years has been truly a highlight of my career. So we have taken his works to many countries through our different locations in the galleries. And so essentially through this numerous exhibition, we have been able to expose his sort of truly profound message about this kind of beauty and the natural sort of the kind of powerful beauty of the works that he presents, and particularly the forgotten people, the unsung heroes that he captures in his photographs. So we are thrilled. I know in a place like Thailand where you have a great reverence for beauty, that you will appreciate Mr. Salgado's exquisite work, and with so much hope and love his work carries. So I'm going to pass on this microphone to him shortly. But before I do that, I have to thank some of the folks who helped collaborate with us in this exhibition. And all exhibitions are by its very nature collaborative, as you know. And so I would like to, of course, thank Nitikorn Kraivixian and the BACC director, Lukana Kunvachianont. You have to forgive me if I'm butchering your name. And then we have from New York, we have Jack Casso and Stanley Lee, and many, many. Salgado Studio in France, in Paris, in New York, Hong Kong, Singapore, they all worked on this project. But I have to thank my friend, my dear friend Mo Bima, who actually proposed this exhibition. And then the couple of people who played a leading role, absolutely leading role in this exhibition is Fawn Windsor Clive and Surin Ping, who really made this exhibition happen with their dedication and kind of a passion and hard work. Thank you, thank you. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Salgado, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Yeah, come with me. Hello, people. How are you? Apologize. I break my knees in March. Work with Indians communities in Amazonia, in Brazil, and I had 2 operations. One operation in May, and another now, 1 month ago, 1 prosthesis. And I'm in process of recuperation, and I hope in 2-3 months I will be as good as I was before, and I can go back to my work again. It's a pleasure to be here with you. As was said a few minutes ago, it's my first exhibit in Thailand, but it's not my first trip to Thailand. I came many times to Thailand. I had a very good friend that passed away a few years ago, that was in a moment the president for the Royal Photographic Society here, Mr. Kunsurat. And it's an amazing story that happens with Mr. Kunsurat. He was a big collector of cameras in the world. And he had 2 cameras from us. It's from like this that we met him. You see, Leica cameras, I worked with Leica cameras for many years in my life. And Leica, for the certain numbers of Leica, they gave for certain people. I believe that the number 500,000 they gave for Mr. Nehru in India. I believe that like 1 million they gave for Queen Elizabeth. Cartier-Bresson, I believe that have 1,500,000. And they gave him the 3 million Leica. It was a very special Leica, made in titanium. And I say, wow, how can I work with this camera? And the guys from Leica said, Sebastião, we can add you to sell this camera in auction. And Leica had an auction once a year in Austria, in Vienna. And we gave this camera because Leila and myself, we work in an environmental project in Brazil. And we said, well, we give this camera for auction, but the money that we raise from this will be to planting trees in Brazil. We plant a lot of trees in Brazil. And we are recuperating one ecosystem tropical ecosystem that look very much like the one that was destroyed. It's the former farm of my parents. And we bring this Leica, and in this moment, Leica gave me another camera that I had worked in Kuwait in 1991. You'll be seeing a few pictures here in this show. And these cameras, they suffer a lot from the oil that come over me. And it was necessary to me in this moment to work with 2 liters of petrol inside a bag with a roll of white paper, this kind of paper that you use in kitchen. In the moment to change the film, it was necessary to me to put petrol in this paper, clean my hands, clean the camera, and change the film. And the petrol finished to go inside the camera and destroy many things inside the camera. And I sent back this camera to Leica, and Leica hold it and gave me a new camera and put this camera in the Leica Museum in Germany. But when we be doing this auction, Leica gave me the camera back for sale in the auction. And Mr. Consurat bought these 2 cameras. Very good money he paid. And what's amazing, when we imagine the size of a Leica camera that is small like this, these 2 cameras, with these 2 cameras, we plant about 50,000 trees. When you imagine in 20 years from now, 30 years, 50 years, when these trees will be to one like that, 30 meters high, when you put a Leica in front, it will be nothing. And we planted 50,000 trees with the money that Mr. Consurat pay us for this Leica. That means this liaison that we have with you guys, with Thailand, through these cameras, through Mr. Consurat, for us is really a big, big pleasure. We came here at the times, were received by him. We had very good moments in Bangkok. And I had worked here before also, in many different places, with refugees coming from Laos, and rural communities here in Thailand. And, well, Thailand for me is a very well-known country. As I'm a photographer, I must show to you photography. And we prepared 2 projections, 2 series of photographies. One first series of photography is about the beginning of my career as a photographer. And second series is my last body of work that I did called Genesis, and that will be shown here also. But that you can understand why I did these pictures. I tell to you very quickly a small resume of my life, of my history, that you can understand a little bit this picture. I'm, as you, born in one developing country, with all the problems of developing countries. When I born in Brazil, Brazil was not yet a market economy. I born in a farm, quite isolated. Brazil is a huge country, quite isolated inside the interior of the country. And I grew up in this farm of my parents. You see, we are so isolated that when it's a cattle farm, when we had our cattle ready to go to the slaughterhouse, it was necessary to do about 45, 50 days in the roads to bring this cattle for the slaughterhouse. 20, 25 days traveling back to arrive in the farm. And today, all this is gone. The cattle go by truck, by train, but that time was by walk. We had no roads in Brazil. And it's from there that I come from. I born in a place, probably the most beautiful place of this planet, one state called Minas Gerais. It's a very hilly state. And for me, it's there. When you go inside my shows or you'll be seeing the pictures, we see a common line between these pictures. It's the lights. It's the way that I walk the light. It's the light that we have in the sky. It's the clouds that we have in the sky. And that comes from there. You see, when I was a child, my father bring me in this farm to see the beginning of the rain season. For the highest point in the farm was a kind of small peak that we have there. It's a big farm. The farm of my parents had at least 10, 15 kilometers long. My father do not like horse. It's by walk, and he went by walk, a hill up, and arrived there waiting this rain arrive. The skies were so amazing, the sky, the lightness. Oh, the sun crossed in the middle of this have clouds, you see, and as you, we are tropical. I born inside a tropical forest. The sun, during the sun time, the summer, was so hot, so heavy, that I had always a big hat on my head or was in the shadow. And every person that came towards me came from the light to the shadow. And I learned to look against the light. When you be seeing my pictures, most of them was photographed against the light. It's very difficult to photograph against the light, but when we succeed, we have an incredible design of the contours of the picture. Gave you an incredible volume in the picture, and all this I bring from my origins. I grew up in this farm, and in a moment I made my primary school there around the farm, and after it was necessary to me to do the secondary school. In this moment, I gone for a more big town, where I discover the modern world. And a few years later, happens the most important thing that ever happened in my life. I met my wife, Leila, that is here with me. And we are together now after... we are together now for more than 50 years. I met Leila in 1964. And you see, in this moment I was a student of economy. I became an economist. Being in a developing country with all the social problems that developing countries, we became a very big political activist. I made my studies in economy, but in macroeconomy, in public accounts, in national accounts, and was what was so-called in the time the political economy. And I were very linked with all the contestation moment against dictatorship in Brazil. Had a huge dictatorship. In a moment, Leila myself was necessary to us to go from Brazil. And we went to, oh, very kind, thank you very much. I push a little bit the table and put it. Thank you very much. Well, thank you. And we went to France, and in France, I prepared a PhD in economics. Leila, when she was in Brazil, she was a pianist. She made 16 years of conservatory. She started very young. And in France, she became an architect. And I prepared a PhD in economics. I went to work as an economist in an international organization based in London. From there, I made a lot of different missions to Africa as an economist with the World Bank. And Leila bought a camera to make the pictures of architecture. And for the first time in my life, I look through a viewfinder. It was possible to me to transform in image anything that I dream, that I saw. I made a cross-section with my eyes. I saw the incredible image, but for me it was never impossible to materialize that. And with the Leila camera it was possible. In a few months, I knew that photography was taken over, made a total invasion in my life. And 2 years later, I take a decision to abandon the economy, and I became a photographer. I started photography working as a freelancer. I went to Africa. I made many different stories in Africa as a freelancer. And after I came inside press agents, I work in Sigma agents in Paris. Paris is a town very well known where in that time concentrate the biggest agents for photographers of the world. And after I went to work in Gamma, and finally I came to work in Magnum agents, where I spent 15 years. I'm very pleased to have a colleague from Magnum, Jim Narchway, that's sitting here in this room tonight with us. Jim, we are working together in Magnum for many years. And after I abandoned Magnum, I create with Lelia a small agency to work with my work. And Jim also abandoned Magnum and he created his own agency in the United States. And we keep friends till now. And it's a pleasure that he is here with us. And the work that I'll be showing here for you is part of my life. Sometimes people tell that I'm a photojournalist, that I am a documentary photographer, that I'm an economist photographer, that I'm an anthropologist photographer. That is not true. I'm nothing of this. But it's much more than this. Photography is my life, is my way of life. Everything that I thought that was important to show, I went to doing photography. Everything that disturbed me, that I was upset, that I want to denounce, I went with photography. Everything that I thought that was marvelous to see, the dignity of the people, the personality of the people, I went to photograph. In reality, I link my way of thinking, my ideology, my behavior, my ethics with my line of life, and the results are the pictures, are the photographies. I'll be showing to you this first series of photographies. It's about 20 minutes. We put a very nice music. It's Henryk Gorek, that's a contemporary Polish composer. He made fabulous music for the people that was killed in these camps in German Second World War. But I believe that this music adapted perfectly well. It's the third symphony of Gorek that goes with this first set of pictures. These pictures represent my first body of work in Latin America. That in the show here, you have 20 pictures. They represent the body of work that I did with Doctors Without Borders in Africa. I work for a while. I became a doctor out of border. Doctor out of border, you need to be a doctor to work with them. You can be a nurse, you can be an engineer. They have a lot of doctors, of course. They have photographers, they have communicators. And I were working in Magnum, and I take a decision to become part of Doctors of the Board, to produce a board of work. And I produce a board of work that become a book. And you'll be seeing part of this work. I did a body of work called Workers, where you have some sample of this work here in the show-offs, that became a book, a quite large book, a 400 or 450-page book. I worked for many years. And the idea, you see, I'm a former economist. In a moment, we live an incredible industrial revolution in our planet with the arrival of the electronics in the production, in the industry. Before, 30 years, 40 years ago, a car was assembled in a line. Every part of this car was touched by the hand of a human being, was made by hand. Everything in our planet was made by hand. The work class was the most important factor of production in the world. But in a moment, with the arrival of the intelligent machines in the line of production, the computers, the robots, all these, the hand labor started to be displaced. And with Lelia, we conceive a body of the worker that I worked for 5-6 years, all over the world, here in Asia, Latin America, in Europe, everywhere. And we produced this book that was become a body called Workers, an Archaeology of Industrial Era. Was published in English by Aperture Foundation in the United States, and I believe that we had about 8 or 9 different editions around the world. And photographing workers, I saw that because the hand labor was finished in Europe, in the United States, in developed countries, they were transferred this industry to here, to developing countries, to Thailand, to China, to Indonesia, to Brazil, to Mexico, to these countries that had a lot of hand power, a lot of raw material, all these very cheap, and was better for these rich countries to transfer this heavy industry, these dirty industries, to our countries. And our countries become the center of the heavy industry of the planet. And I was working in this, and coming to work here, I saw that because we are creating a new system of production in these countries, we are provoking a huge revolution in our countries. We are moving most of the population of our countries from the inside the country, from the fields to the towns. We are urbanizing our countries very fast. I give you the example of my country. When I was child in Brazil, Brazil was 92% rural country. Today, Brazil is more than 92% urban country. We became a huge center of industrialization in the world, provoked by this big industrial revolution. And I photographed this for many years. And that became this book that I tell to you, and you'll be seeing these pictures. And when I was photographing works, I saw that this human family was being reorganized. And I went for 7 years around the planet photographing migrants, displaced population, big towns in the world that become giants because of the migration. I work in 9 huge towns around here. In that moment that I worked, Bangkok was not yet the big city that is now. But I work in Bombay, I work in Jakarta, I work in capital of Philippines, in Manila, and Istanbul, Sao Paulo, Mexico. I work in all these towns and become a body of work that we call Exodus. We have a few pictures here in the show. We have a big book that Lele designed that was published in that time by Auditorium, but now is published by Taschen. We have the book here if you want to see, and we have a few pictures in the show. And we'll be having a few pictures in this projection. And it's this that we want you to see now, these few pictures. And after I come back, I will speak a little bit. We open to you to put some questions, and we'll do a second projection about the body of work that I call Genesis, okay? I go down now and ask my friends if they can take out this table, this chair, and cut every light that we can see these pictures. Thank you very much, guys. when I was doing one series of pictures that you saw here, I photographed a lot in Rwanda, Burundi, during the times of the genocide in Rwanda. The pictures that you saw here also that I did in the former Yugoslavia. I live a very difficult moment in my life. I lose completely the hope that we will be a species with a capacity of survival. I was 100% sure that we are going against a war, that will be finished as a species. I came deeply depressed inside myself. In a moment, I started to be attacked by my own staphylococcus. I thought that I was about to die. I went to see a doctor. The doctor tells me, Sebastian, really you die. You are not sick. He made an examination. Your health is okay, but you see so many deaths, so many depressive photos, so that you die. It's better to you to stop. And we stop. I stopped in a moment. With Lélia, we went to Brazil, take a decision to abandon photography. We be not more photography. Was the moment that my parents become old. They gave us the farm that I grew on it, that I tell you, that I went as a child. That was real, a slice of the paradise, with huge amount of rainforest. And when you received this land was completely dead also. As dead I were. No more forest. We came for more than 60% of rainforest in this farm for less than 0.5%. As all my region, everything was destroyed. As here in Thailand. To build this incredible modern country, we lived back to as a desert. In Brazil was the same. And we said, what we do with this land? How can we be farming a land that is completely dead? And Lélia, she had one idea, said, Sebastian, why we do not replant the rainforest that was here before? I said, why not? We did ask a friend of us that was an engineer in forest and specialized in recuperation of ecosystem, a tropical ecosystem. And he made a project for us and to rehabilitate our land, to make our land a forest again. It was necessary to plant more than 2,500,000 trees. I said, wow, my God, how can we do this? We are not rich. And, but you said, we go. I start, people open the door for me because I'm a more or less well-known photographer. In every place I went, the people hear me. And I ask money. I apply money all over the world. We become tax deducted in the United States. We raise money everywhere, and we started to replant our forest. Today, we have about 2.5 million trees planted. We recuperated this system. And replanting this forest came in me a huge wish to photograph again. I said, I must go again. But I want to see my planet. And with Lélia, we conceived another project that after we called Genesis. And we went to see the planet. I went for the first time to photograph other animals, because till this moment, as you saw in this picture, I had photographed just one animal, us. And I said, now I want to see the other animals, how they are, how I can photograph them. I want to see the mountains. I want to photograph the minerals. I want to photograph the trees, the vegetables. And I want to see my planet. And we organized a project. I went for many different magazines around the world, magazines that I had worked in Exodus, in Workers, and they gave us money. We raised money with few foundations, most in the United States, few companies, and we went. We designed a project for 80 years, shooting. I photographed from Antarctica to the Arctic. I went to 32 different regions or countries around the world. And we created this body of work that will have few pictures in the show. If you want, we have a book here called Genesis that Leila designed, Leila produced. Leila curated the shows. The show Genesis, you see, before Genesis, we had a show called The Family of Man. It's a fabulous show that was created by the Modern Art Museum of New York in the 60s. It was the show that had more people that went to a museum to see. It was about 2.8 million people saw The Family of Man. With Genesis now, we are close to 4 million people that went to see. Genesis is the show in the history of photography that had more people that came inside the museum to see it. And Genesis keep going. Leila designed Genesis now for Rotterdam. Is now in St. Petersburg. Is in Italy, some places go to Naples. And Genesis turn around the world, keep turning around the world. We sail for this moment and now plus than 600,000 copies of the book Genesis around the world. And I will show to you, the next projection will be few pictures of Genesis. And we have a very nice music. Is a young American composer called Jonathan Elias. He's from Los Angeles. He composed a lot for Sting, for many big artists. And Jonathan is a collector of pictures. He buys a lot of my pictures. And he is my friend, and he prepared these musics for this projection. And you can find this music in a CD that he created called The Secret Prayer. And I went 8 years. I made incredible trips around the world with Leila. Leila came with me because to design the book, to design the show was necessary to her to see the planet also. And we went together. And but the biggest trip that I made in all these 80 years traveling around the world was inside myself. I discovered incredible things in this planet. The first thing that I discovered, that I am an animal, like other animal. I'm a part of the animal kingdom. Just a few years ago, we all live in the caves. We all live in the forest. We all were very close to our planet. Now, live in Thailand, live in Bangkok. You are not living more in Thailand. You live in Bangkok. We don't know more the huge, fabulous hills that you have in this country, the rivers of this country, the forest of this country. We abandon our planet. We live in São Paulo, in Rio de Janeiro. We are not more living in Brazil. We don't know our incredible forests. No, live in China, in Beijing, in Shanghai. You don't live more in China. You see, we become kind of aliens in our own planet. We are very close to be put out of our planet. If you have one incredible natural catastrophes, what can happen? For example, there is a projection that the Yellowstone volcano can explode. If there is an explosion of the Yellowstone volcano, all the planet will be covered by this dust and the smoke from this volcano for hundreds of years, probably thousands of years. Have no more sunshine come over us, and all us will disappear. And you see, if probably we are living in nature, it would be much more easy to us to survive than live in towns. Imagine you in Bangkok, you have no more electricity, you have no more water supply, you have no more food supply. If you disorganize in this system, we cannot survive. And see, we saw other day here, the tsunami that happened. No one was prepared for this tsunami. Look in the tsunami in Japan. It was amazing because all ants, all birds, all termites, they gone many days before the arrival of the tsunami. The human being has no more this instinct of survival. And we saw incredible images in television that I saw, probably you saw once, seeing this incredible wave come, people stopped the car, saw this wave come to kill them. And you see, that is the point. We must go back to our planet. We must respect our planet. I'm sure that we'll be not living more in caves in the forest, but spiritually, we must go back. We must rebuild part of the forest that we destroy. See, like Lely and myself are doing in Brazil, we can sequestrate all the dioxide of carbon that we are doing the emission by our factories, by our car, by our big cities. We can do if we plant trees. The tree is the only machine capable to transform the CO2, the carbon, in oxygen. They get the C, the carbon. They transform in wood, they liberate 2 molecules of oxygen each time that they absorb the carbon. You see, I believe that this point that we must mind, that we must take care. We must take care of our planet. If we take care of our planet, we become part of it. If not, we'll be pushed out of it. Okay, guys, I will leave open for a few questions. And after we see these pictures, and after that we see the pictures, we finish and we go up to see the show. Okay, if you have few questions, please do it now. Yes, we have someone down there. Can we have a microphone? He's bringing a big microphone to you.
Should I stand up or can I sit down?
Please.
Okay. First, thank you very much for sharing your experiences here. Very impressive, and especially for what you're doing for the world, for the society. Thank you very much. My question is regarding, well, first of all, I have to say that you are my inspiration, really. I really want to quit my job, but I think it's quite difficult for me to do that. First question is that I see your picture and I found that I feel that it is so dynamic, it's so powerful, and it's tremendous, it's timely. What I really want to know is that what is your thought when you took that picture? You think about the composition of the picture, or just feeling that you want to shoot that image? So this is my first question. And second question is regarding the picture that I just saw that in the presentation. Some of them, I believe, if I'm not wrong, is took by digital camera. Some of them are taken by film camera. I don't know why you decide to turning from film camera and using the digital camera, because I feel that some of the picture is very sharp, and yes, and these are my two questions. Thank you.
I don't believe there is a question. Huh? It's okay. Yes? Okay, go ahead.
Before, you were photograph only one thing, human, right?
Okay.
And now, but not now, like your project Genesis. The thing in front of your camera is the nature. And I would like to ask you, like, how did you concern about that? How did you create that image? Thank you.
You see, to make these pictures, I put many years of my life. You need to come to these communities. You spend a long time to understand the communities, to be accepted by the communities, to explain why you are there, to be part of the life of the people. You must have a big concern to be there. The contrary, you cannot hold longer there also. And the question, for me, when I went to photograph Genesis, was exactly this. How I will be behaving in front of a tortoise, in front of an iguana, in front of a lion, and how can I photograph a mountain? And I discover one interesting thing, that I must get the authorization of the animals to photograph them, that I must respect their personality, their dignity. No, to photograph a forest, I must have respect the trees. The contrary, I have nothing as picture. No? To photograph a mountain, I must identify myself with the mountain. In the end, it is about the same. There is not a big difference. I remember photographing Genesis. Once I went to Alaska, to the Brooks Range. That is an incredible chain of mountains that we have in Alaska. And my guide was one Eskimo, but he was too fat. He was about 240 pounds, about 120 kilos. And no way to him to climb the mountain. And I climbed alone. In a moment it was necessary to him to go. Had no more reason to be there. I stay alone. And I went up to this mountain. And it was difficult to climb because it was too high, but I climbed it. I sit there for hours and hours because I had 24 hours light a day because it was very north, very close to the North Pole. And in these moments, I had incredible opportunity to understand my planet, to see this mountain, to see these winds, this carving these mountains made by the winds, this small snow, this small vegetation. I was so integrated to all this that I was part of this. That was my planet, that I was it also. I was completely inside. In this moment, I was photographing myself. It was very easy to understand the things, to be inside it. But sometimes people ask me, if I photograph in Genesis, I do not become a photographer of landscape, a photographer of animals, if I not became very far away from the human communities that I had photographed before. In reality, in Genesis, you see, I spend about 1/3 of my time working with the humans. But the humans that were 40,000 years before, 50,000 years before, we exist yet, like we existed in the beginning. And, but it's not because of this that I abandoned the human community. Now, I'm doing a new project. I'm working in Amazonia with the Indian communities. I'm there with them after 3 years, 4 years now. I have 3-4 years more to finish this model of work because Lely and myself, we believe that we must add to protect this slice of land, this forest, these Indian communities. Because if you want to have an equilibrium of the humidity of the planet, we must protect this part. And I came back and photographed the humans again. I did a project in the nature. It's the pictures that we'll be seeing now. Okay? Thank you very much, guys. And we go together for
Hello.
the show.
May I ask one question, please?
Oh, yes.
I tried to ask, and everybody... can I ask about the children in the cages, in that cage? You have a photograph of children inside a cage. Where is that from? What's that about?
The students are not inside a cave. The students are inside a house. The students who are in the south of Sudan, in the moment that you had a huge guerrilla in the south of Sudan fighting against the central government of Sudan. This kid is not to be taken by the regular army. The families push them in the roads to going out of Sudan, to come in the north of Kenya, inside the refugee camps. They were kids of 12 years old, 13 years old, 15 maximum. And they were running, not to be captured by the army to become kid soldiers. And walk in the south of Sudan, sometimes walk inside, abandoned all the house. I find 10, 15 kids sleeping there during the day, for the night, run, not to be captured by the army to go out. Okay. Thank you, guys. What? Huh? Wait a second. O que você falou lá? Oh, the kids that were inside the prison here in Hong Kong. Apologize. You see, I work in migration. I work a lot with here in Southwest Asia, and I work a lot in north of Indonesia, in Vietnam, in Hong Kong, in many different places where we have the boat people that came out of Vietnam. And these children that were in prison in Hong Kong. You see, Hong Kong, in this moment, was probably the most developed place in the planet, one of the most high revenue by head in the planet, one of the most richest places in the world. But the Vietnamese that hit Vietnam, they were not considered, after a month, more as refugees. They were considered as illegal migrants. All then were put in prison. And they were put in prison by couple. And these women become pregnant in prison. And these kids born in prison. They grow in prison. They went for the class inside the prison. And they were in prison. The only things from outside that they saw were the cats that sometimes went up to this wires, no? And where they were isolated and come to see them, but the kids never went out. That was one of the most violent things that I ever saw in my life, were these children in prison in Hong Kong. Okay? Okay, now we see the last projection, and after we go to the contract, we don't be inside our schedule. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a very lovely presentation. Right now, let's make our way up to the 8th floor for the opening ceremony of the exhibition. So there is a set of staircase that goes up and the ramp that goes around also. So as there are a lot of us, so we might have to walk up there to the 8th floor. So we'll meet you upstairs in a few moments. Thank you so much.